What's up, America? It's fall time again. The leaves are falling. Temperatures are falling. Thankfully, the COVID death rates are falling. But the one thing that's not falling is this show. Thanks to you, our viewers. We are on the rise, and we are back, and it's time to get another one going. Let's do this.
Blabber.
And welcome back to the Blabber Show. We're finally back. I know we've had a long pause there, and we really apologize for that. But what can I say? Sometimes life gets in the way. And we are your host. I am Michael Cadry, and the guy over there in the signature Big M hat is the Big M, Mark Anthony. How do you do, sir?
Oh, man, I've had a shot of adrenaline in me in the last month, baby.
Yeah,
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, well, we've had enough break. I think we should be well rested. And, hey, these things happen. We always said every show we're not promising when we're going to have these shows on, but, we're going to continue to do them as long as we enjoy doing them. And I think we still enjoy doing them. So that's why we're back. So I'm just going to apologize to everybody for the long pause. But there's been a lot to talk about. So I think that's why it was good to hop back on here. As I said before, we're not always going to have a guest host. So today for the hour, you just got myself and the Big M there. So strap yourselves in, and we hope you're entertained. I want to talk about just this past weekend. I know there's a lot of things to talk about, but a lot of people didn't even know the Preakness ran this Saturday. And I almost forgot about it myself, just because everything is so off. And, just the Triple Crown was run in a different order. It's later in the year. And I've mentioned to people about the race, and they're like, I didn't even know it was running. It's a weird year. And I'll tell you how weird of a year it is. I'm guessing you probably didn't watch the race.
No, you know what? I didn't know anything about it until afterwards. I was watching a college football game that I had a couple dollars on, and I could see it, scrolling down at the bottom. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know there was any horse racing. Me, even with the Kentucky Derby, half the time, but it will be in the middle of the afternoon. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna place a couple bets on it, right. And then by the time I remember, it took place an hour ago. Right. I've done that the last 2 or 3 years, but I didn't even know there was another major race.
Yeah, this is the last. It's usually the Belmont is the last of the Triple Crown, but they kind of mucked things up this year and shifted things around. The Kentucky Derby is actually the second race this year, so so it was a little odd, but and it kind of went off without a lot of fanfare apparently, but. But the other weird thing, and it's a shame that there wasn't a lot of people aware of the race, because a filly actually won the race, and there's usually fillies running in the race, but it's not often they win, and they beat Authentic, who won the Kentucky Derby. So that was quite impressive, but I think it was also very telling of 2020, right? It's unexpected. Like, what else would you expect? And she was, I think, somewhat of a long shot. I don't remember what the odds were, but she wasn't definitely a favorite to win. So anybody having money on a filly winning the Preakness probably made a pretty good penny. Now, on the side, I had Authentic because I won with Authentic in the Kentucky Derby, so why not let it ride, But the other thing I always do is I like to try to pick a long shot to, win, place, or show. So I just, one name stood out to me, and I just saw Jesus's team. And I'm like, well, I got to bet Jesus' team. I'm on Jesus' team. I got to bet that horse, right? It was like 31-1, something like that. I'm like, I'm in for Jesus' team. And but then when they were announcing it, they kept saying Jesus' team. I'm like, hey, what's this Jesus? That's Jesus.
It does make sense that it would be.
Well, they can say Jesus all they want. I was calling him Jesus' team, okay? But the fact is, Jesus' team came in third place, right? So now, granted, I only put $2 down on it, so I wasn't going to lose anything. But I won $12.50, which is it's not a whole lot. But hey, if that horse would have won or taken second place, I would have won a pretty decent amount of money on that $2 bet. So, but I still won. So that's the thing that counts.
Yeah, but off of $2, $12.50 is
that's a huge gain off.
Gain, and you didn't play it to lose. There have been times where I would go I'd go watch harness racing and bet, and sometimes you felt like you took a favorite or something that the odds were so ridiculously low to win any money, you thought maybe when your horse would win the race that they might actually come over to you and tap you on the shoulder and have you kick in a couple more dollars on your win, you know.
Right. And then then the jockeys there like, hey, how about a little bit of for the the driver here, you know.
Hey, if I would have known I would have quit growing in 7th grade, maybe I would have gotten into this whole jockey. The only thing is I'm not super skinny. I got some muscle. I mean, those guys are like
you can easily get down that way, you know.
Oh,
they starve themselves, you know.
I'm probably about right now. I'd say I'm probably about 160 pounds. Those guys are.
You also got to learn how to speak Spanish, though.
Well, yeah, I'm screwed there. I could do a couple words. I had 9th grade Spanish. I think I got a solid D in at the end of the year. But
I don't know why is that? I mean, they're not all jockeys are Spanish, like Mexican or Latino. But boy, man, I would say 80% of them or more are.
It's probably just more prominent with their maybe their nationality or their heritage. Plus, also remember, even when you watch a lot of boxing, if you see like the super flyweights, the middle flyweights, the people who are really small, most of them are either of Asian or they're Hispanic. There just happens to be, I think, generally speaking, like I'm half Polish and I'm also probably about a third or so Italian, and the Italian family members are very short. In fact, me barely scraping 5'7" is probably the tallest one out of the bunch. I mean, my mom's like 4'11", probably shrunk down to 4'10" by now. But but my Polish side of the family, like my dad, when he was alive, he's like 6 foot. My aunt was taller than me. My uncle was like 6'2" or 6'3". So I think there's just certain nationalities, like especially, you know, in heritage, there's bigger people and there's smaller people. And I think that has a lot to do with it. And I think once it's sort of like being like owning a funeral home.
Right.
Most of the people that own funeral homes, it's gone from generation to generation to generation. They're in the business, so they end up being in the business. I think that's what happens is it's probably a bloodline of families who been around horses and racing horses and training horses over all the years. I don't think there's too many people who here in Western Pennsylvania grew up in Braddock and now all of a sudden they're a horse jockey. You know, it's just,
yeah. Well, I think speaking of that, I mean, it also seems like, and this isn't all of funeral home owners and whatnot, but you know, it seems like a lot of them here in Western Pennsylvania are Slovak. You know, I mean, they're owned by Slovakians. And again, I don't know why that is. Why, you know, one, you know, nationality, you know, drifts towards one profession over another. I don't know what that is.
But that happens because I've had people cut my hair over the years. There seems to be a larger number of Italians who
I was just going to say that if you're a hairdresser, you probably got a lot of Italian.
Or a tailor. I mean, generally, in a lot, I'm not talking about somebody who just comes over, oh, you need that hemmed up an inch. I'm talking tailors who could actually have a real skill that could take, you know, measure you and put together a great fitting shirt or a suit. It just, I mean, I don't know. I guess it just, I don't know the reasons for that. I guess you'd have to go back and look into it, or just some people naturally have better skills, or some people work with their hands more than, I don't know. But it, you know, that's before our time. Yeah. I guess.
Well, I guess that would be for an anthropologist to look into and try to figure out. But anyways, the why don't we get to a blabber boast here? Because I got maybe one or two things I want to talk about. So let's cue this up.
Blabber boast.
All right, this is becoming a fan favorite segment, according to some feedbacks. They really like when we talk about some things, because these are free plugs. So look, let's be honest, folks. maybe one day, and hopefully soon, we have some sponsors on the show that we can plug and get paid for. But as of right now, we're just doing things just as a public service to you out there. To say,
Well,
look,
maybe some of my presidential sponsors for running for president, maybe I could get the Pens and Fleet Enemas to come over and
there you
help
go.
sponsor us.
We need that to bleed over into the Blabber Brain show. So let's you got to do some sort of quid pro quo. I mean, that's the thing nowadays, right? You got to do that. So you got to work that into the show. Anyways, what I want to do is I have two I want to put forth out there. I want to talk about the movie called The Peanut Butter Falcon. I think it came out it's called The Peanut Butter Falcon.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. Well, it was a very good movie, but
it sounds like they're giving out samples.
It's not about food. Well,
Okay.
but anyways, it's a really wonderful, heartwarming story. It stars Shia LaBeouf, Dakota Johnson. If you're not familiar with that, it's Dawn Johnson and Melanie Griffith's daughter. It's a very beautiful girl, good actress. Bruce Dern has a small role in it. Thomas Hayden Church, most people know him, has a great role in the movie. But there's this other guy, Zach Gottsagen. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. Gottsagen, something like that. Zach Gottsagen. I don't want to pronounce it wrong. So, Zach, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Not that you'll ever see this. Zach is mentally challenged, and he has Down syndrome. And so, unfortunately, someone who wants to act, as we've seen with other actors with Down syndrome, you're limited in your roles because you're going to play a character with Down syndrome. It's just inevitable, right? But he is so good. I mean, there are a lot of high functioning people out there with Down syndrome, and I guess he's one of them. And he just does such a good job in that role. And his character is so likable. And I'm not a big Shia LaBeouf fan. I'm just not. But he is so good in this movie. Actually, he was converting me to become a Shia LaBeouf fan because he's a very good actor. I don't know. I just never connected with him in some of the roles he's had. But anyways, you can see what the movie's about. I just give you a brief synopsis. Zach plays a guy with Down syndrome who was kind of abandoned by his family, and the state didn't know what to do with him, so he put him in a senior citizen home and in a nursing home. And in real life, that actually does happen sometimes, unfortunately. But he's a huge studio wrestling fan, and he just has this. He wants to go to the studio wrestling school. He's been watching this videotape for that's 20 years old, right? It's on VCR. So he's putting a VHS tape in, and he's watching this video. It's like 20 years old, and they're talking about come to my wrestling school. So he wants to break out of the nursing home and find this wrestling school while Bruce Dern helps him escape. And he eventually meets Shia LaBeouf's character along the way, and they form, not right off the bat, but they eventually form a bond. And it's just a really, really heartwarming and good movie. So I recommend that to a lot of people. The people that I've recommended it to personally, and in person, have watched the movie and have thanked me for telling them about it. So that one's for everybody. Go watch The Peanut Butter Falcon. If you have a Prime membership, it's available on Prime. So it comes free. You don't have to pay extra for it. So that makes it even better. The other thing I really want to plug real quick, because it's going to leak into something that we probably can talk about on the show, and that's there's a movie on Netflix called The Social Dilemma. Have you heard about this? A lot of people are talking about this movie.
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I really don't know anything about it, to be honest with you.
It's a documentary. It's not really a movie. It's a documentary, and it basically features all of the I don't want to say all of the, but a lot of the tech geniuses that were involved in all the big social media, like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Google and all these other things. They were the ones that helped create all of this technology for social media back in the day, and they all said that they did it with good intentions because there was a lot of good that could have come out of having social media. But what they witnessed was the big tech taking over and developing of AI taking over the programs. Things just got super scary, and they wanted nothing more to do with it, and they walked away. And they kind of give their testimony, and they build that into this documentary, and they weave in some acting and some acting scenes to show what social media is doing to people, and intentionally. And if anybody thinks that there's a political divide in this country because of politics or because of politicians or even because we like to hunker down behind our political parties, that's only this much of the problem. Social media is geared towards dividing us as a nation. And once you watch the movie, it becomes a lot more clear. I'm not going to give anything away, but it's a frightening movie and documentary, I should say, because it just shines a light on what social media, and not only that, AI is doing to us as a country and as the world. In fact, not just our country. I recommend people to watch it because I think that you begin to start seeing things a lot clearer as to why we're being tugged this way and tugged that way. They say one thing. Here's a good thing. Have you ever wondered why people on the right and people on the left say the exact same things about the other side? Like, they can't believe the other side is so stupid or brainwashed because they believe X, Y, or Z. Both sides say the same thing, right? How can they believe this? Because it's obviously not true. And both sides are saying it. Well, once you watch the documentary, you begin to realize how that is true. And both sides are right and they're wrong at the same time. And we're tearing ourselves apart willingly because of our desire to be part of social media. And that's the scary part about this. And I think that if everybody would just open their eyes to what's going on, maybe you don't believe all the crap that's being placed in front of us and just willingly believe it. I don't care what side you're on. Both sides are guilty of just blindly believing whatever they're told and whatever's put in front of them. They just are. And I'm sorry if you're offended by that. It's just the way it is. Well, I'm not you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people out there watching this. I know you and I aren't. It takes a lot to offend either of us. But yeah, I'm just saying, watch the documentary, Mark. I'm definitely even recommending you to watch it because you'll soon see why we are being ripped apart, and it's horrible and it's intentional, and that's the scary part. Anyways,
how long is this documentary?
I think it's like an hour and a half, something like that. Okay. It's not like a 3-hour documentary, but I'll
have to check it out if I'm at home on Friday evening. Maybe
it's on Netflix. So again, the things I'm recommending, it's not going to cost you any extra money as long as you have a Netflix account, as long as you have an Amazon Prime account, you can watch these shows. So I just highly recommend both of those. We, on the other hand, are trying not to be part of social media. We're trying not to divide you. We're trying not to rip you apart. If anything, we try to bring unity. We try to bring humor. We try to bring entertainment, whatever it is.
That's why nobody's listening to us.
Well, maybe that is the problem, man. Everybody loves to take a side. They love to hunker down behind this side or that side. Well, you're not going to find that on this show, but we hope that you still watch us anyways, please. So, what do you got to blab about there, Mark?
Well, you know what? I thought about this, and this is something that I guess I do a lot of that probably a lot of people don't, but it's this guitar here. I just picked it up recently. I can't tell with how things are set up whether I could on the screen if I'm showing you this. But this is I have a lot of expensive guitars. There's a whole wall of them over here. And I have some really high-end Martins, but I wanted a small body guitar, specifically not made out of wood, that sounded decent, that was small in size. This is considered a parlor size guitar, which is considered a single zero. And it sounds great. Even this is made out of high pressure laminate, which is basically countertop. I was slicing lemons on the back of this thing a little earlier today. But even the neck is nothing but birch that was layered together, almost like a paper product. And the reason it's not affected by humidity. I can
looks
take
like it's
it
got
outside.
a matte finish. Does it have a matte finish on it? Looks really.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be mahogany, and I have an all mahogany Martin guitar, and this does sound mahogany, but nowhere near as good
Right.
because there's no real wood in it. The
I'm sorry.
bracing
Wait.
might be.
I'm just saying, for those of you on listening on audio only, we apologize. This is a visual segment of the show, so go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, sorry about that, people. Envision a imitation mahogany small-bodied guitar,
Right.
made by Martin, and because I figured I could take it outside, I don't have to worry about it drying out, humidity, because all that. With the expensive Martins, you got to keep them at they're so easily damaged because they're fragile. I mean, my D35, I think brand new before the electronics is like $3,100. So this is like $499. It also has electronics in it. You can't probably see it, but inside here, there's a little volume and a tone control. It runs off of a 9-volt battery here.
Wow.
And not plugged in, it's not really that great. Plugged in, this thing will compete with a high-end guitar. It sounds fantastic,
Wow.
but it won't warp. I don't have to worry about the neck moving or
Just
needing
because it's
adjustment.
mahogany?
It's not. It's imitation. It's
Oh,
made
imitation
out of
mahogany.
high pressure. It's
Oh,
high
okay.
pressure laminate. Listen,
Well,
to
that's
it.
probably why it
It's
won't do
plastic.
that. That's probably why it won't do any of that.
I specifically wanted something like this, and I've been doing for my acoustic EP that I'm gonna go and record here soon. I've writing new material specifically for this, except for one song, and I've been using this because I could be on my couch, I could be on a chair, and it doesn't sound as good as my Martins, but it's not bad sounding.
Right.
It's $499. This is actually something that I would play a gig with and use as a backup plugged in because it sounds that good. Or
Yeah, you just couldn't play it in a coffee house like without an amp or something like that. You're
Well,
saying.
you could put a microphone in front of it, but
Probably wouldn't sound as
you
good.
could. Yeah, I mean, it does sound great. It's a great if you're looking for a guitar that's not too expensive that you don't have to worry about. I mean, it's hard to even scratch this thing because it's basically countertop, and it sounds good and it plays fantastic. $499 with case, and it's a big seller. It's the Martin O01E. The E is for electric because it has electronics in it. It's a fantastic buy. I really love this guitar. It feels great. It plays great. It sounds decent enough unplugged and sounds great plugged in. It's a good little songwriting tool that I could sit in a recliner because it's so small. It's smaller in size. The neck isn't, but the body is, and you could take it out anywhere, and you don't have to worry about something getting spilled on it or getting scratched. It's just extremely adorable.
Right.
So it's probably one of the best buys that equipment wise that I've purchased in a while. And as you can see, I have, Marshalls to the right of me, Marshalls to the left of me. I have Marshalls behind me. And I ain't got you or whatever that song goes from Aerosmith. A couple of Vox and a couple Fender guitars here. I mean amplifiers here. So.
And what's the brand again?
It's a Martin guitar.
Okay.
It's the Martin OX1E, and it's selling like hotcakes. It's getting fantastic reviews, and they're even having trouble keeping them in stock right now because, with the whole COVID thing, they were shut down for a while. So manufacturing is a little bit behind, but it's a fantastic guitar for $500, or somebody maybe who's younger it would be nice for a girl, a teenager, maybe with smaller hands, looking for something nice and durable that's not too expensive, that's actually sounds well enough that you could plug it in somewhere and play a gig and nobody would think anything negative about it. I mean, for the money, it's a fantastic buy.
Awesome. Okay. Well, there's this installment of
Blabber.
All right, we hope you enjoyed that. So before we, it's coming up on a half hour soon in a few minutes here. Let's try to get another segment in before the break. Since you mentioned about COVID, there are a few things that you and I have talked about recently, and I know that it's real popular to listen to rhetoric when it comes to COVID, but you and I have been big on looking at numbers, and I like to dive into the data and look at what's really going on. And the problem is that even with the CDC, even with doctors that are out there, the CDC changes their mind on things left and right. What's
the AIDS epidemic? Basically, they don't know anything yet.
It's so hard to know the truth, man. It's so hard to know.
They don't know it all.
Well, I know, but then you got credible doctors that say things on both sides, and you don't know who to believe or what to follow. So that's why I try not to listen to the rhetoric, and I try to just look at the data. So a couple of things that I noticed. When they keep talking about the average or the amount of COVID cases in the country, they're talking over the whole spread of the year of the total number of cases. And right. I thought that was really disingenuous, because we really only started ramping up our testing somewhere around early August, something like that, where we were testing millions of people. And we just really started ramping up the testing. So I thought it would be interesting, because when I look at the graphs, I see these graphs that look like, things down here and a spike way up here, and they come down here, then they go way back up again. I thought it would be interesting to go back to beginning of August and look to today and look at what that data looks like. Look what the cases, look at the hospital usage, the death rates, all the stuff you can look up on the CDC. And if you do that, you get a very different snapshot of things. There's still a lot of testing going on, and there's a lot of cases, but the chart doesn't look like it's going this way. It looks like it's going this way. And the death rate did this. It almost fell completely flat. The hospitals did the same thing. They fell flat. So why are the cases still way up here, but this is way down here? The death rates in the hospital cases are way down here. As something that I read in the New York Times, and also a few other people have spoken to this, including the ex-chief scientist for Pfizer, have come out and talked about this, is that we're getting a lot of false positives. And the reason we're getting a lot of false positives is because of the way they're doing the amplification cycles. Now, when they do the swab, they go up into your sinus cavity and they take a sample. You have to do what's called amplification cycles to find a trace of COVID in there, or whatever else it is they're looking for. Well, the CDC recommends 30 amplification cycles. Somehow, worldwide testing got a number of 40 amplification cycles. Who set that? I don't know. Whether it was the WHO or what, I don't know. The CDC's guidelines are 30 amplification cycles for you to get a true testing on whether a COVID is present. Now, these doctors said that when you're doing 38 to 40 amplification cycles, what's going to end up happening is you're going to find the smallest trace of COVID present in your body or in your system. Probably a lot of us are, if not most of us are, right? Because we're out and about, we're doing things, if we're not hunkered down and locked ourselves in our house. But it's such a small amount that it's not worth passing. Like, you will never pass it on to someone else. You'll never feel any symptoms and get sick. Your own immune system will take that over and fight it off. It's such a small amount, but it's still turning up positive. And that's what I think is leading to the exorbitant amount of positive cases. I'm sorry, I don't have the guy's name. I should have written it down, but it's the ex-chief scientist for Pfizer, has said if you look at the actual data globally, not just in the United States, you can't just look at the cases. You have to look at the amount of people being tested. You have to look at the amount of cases. You have to look at the death rate, the amount of people having symptoms. There's so much more data that goes into looking at whether this thing is a pandemic or not, or whether how deadly it is or how bad it is. And there's just a lot of scientists that are of the mindset that this is nowhere near pandemic status.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have my.
I mean, we were at one time. They're saying now at this point in time we're not. Well, go ahead. What's
Yeah.
your thoughts on this?
I mean, we have somewhat of a different thoughts on some of the. This would have been a great. I should have had Chip Dominic come on and talk about this.
He would have been a good guest. Maybe we'll have him on next show.
Yeah, they just had their release party at Jurgles back when I think it was on Saturday, either Friday or Saturday night, and I heard it went well. I'll have to
come on the next show.
He'll come in and talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and have him talk a little bit about his CD. They've gotten a few write-ups and they've been putting out some videos. But I mean, it's like this. Some of my situation is a little different. People, I'm not too worried about myself. But the big thing I think that's going to the really gauge thing is to see what happens in a couple years from the cases that have taken place this year. Because you see, if there's going to be people probably going to have lung problems, heart problems, and you might get it now and it might be like a bad flu, but who's to say a year from now or 2 years from now,
something else, right?
And I think there's definitely going to be a lot of that too. And it's like, look, I watched 2 Steeler games over at your house, and I kept my distance, even a little more so than usual. But that's a different situation because there's somebody that I've been hanging around with on occasion. That she has,
And we should all still be cautious. We should still all be very cautious.
And I just probably even a little more concerned about it now because I wouldn't want to. Well, she has to watch what she does. I would hate to be around someone who, like her. She's a beautiful young girl and has been dealing with this for 11 years now, and have surpassed everything in her expiration date by years. And I think I showed you a couple photos of her. She's a beautiful girl, and she still works at a hospital in the OR. She has a business, an eyelash business and everything. And she's got a whole story behind her, even before the whole thing of cancer. But I would hate to have something happen to her because I didn't pay attention.
Right.
And I got together with her for coffee or to hang out, because it's pretty likely that it would kill her. She has no immune system. So, right. I mean, I just try to be the best I can for other people around me. I understand why people are upset and how they feel about things too. I just don't worry about the whole control thing. If me putting something a little over my face ends up helping somebody out or myself, okay, did it really cause that much of an inconvenience to me? Not really. But I mean, there's a lot of things I miss doing. I want to play. I had things scheduled to do with another band this summer and do my thing, and that all went to hell. The whole story about recording and everything. And it's been a nightmare. I can't wait until something. I'm hoping come spring, that whether vaccines and everything, that hopefully things will be a lot better and I could, continue more time. But I just feel bad for people, like the person I'm talking about, that they really don't know how. I mean, it's bad enough us as we're getting older to lose out on a year. Right. I feel like this whole year was just, basically a piss in the bucket. But to somebody else,
that's a cherished year. That's a
cherished year. And I think about, God, we just hang out and we're friends. And how we know each other. It's a whole funny thing in itself. But to say, what, there's so many cool things to go do that usually could be doing this fall with the wineries and the festivals and that. And it just sucks that, there's been a lot of things that are affected by it. And yeah, I lose 1 year out, and yeah, I'm getting older and the music thing and all. Thank God I had me and you, haven't completely fallen apart. I'm still keeping it together and everything. But to some people, or if you're a senior citizen or elderly person, a year's a lot.
Yep.
When you're a high risk person, taking a year off your life, or taking that year and turning it into, almost like if you were bedridden or something, is just, it just sucks. And, you try to make the best of it. And that's what I'm trying to do over here. And I don't really think
my take on all of this is, I think we should all have personal responsibility to do the best we can to, when we're around people that we know are either elderly or have conditions, that we do the best we can to protect them, because we don't know what we're carrying around that's not affecting us that could affect them. But at the same time, do these things with care and caution, but stop living in fear. You know, I think there's so many people that are just so deathly afraid, and we just got to be mindful and be cautious and be loving and caring towards everybody, but don't live your life in fear. This is not as deadly as they thought, but it's still bad, and people can still get it, and people can still die, and just keep that in mind. And
it just, if everybody sort of just did a little, it would mean a lot overall, and that's the problem. There's just certain situations that you get into, or some people who just, and that's their thing, and you know what? That's fine. I won't spend any time around them, just because there's other things that there's a couple other people that are more important to me at this time than now. But it's just a mess. And
I get how people think that, like, you know, the government shouldn't be mandating things to us. I think there can be recommendations, and I understand that people think that, you know, look, I can think for myself, I can do for myself, but the problem is that there's a lot of people that aren't believing that this thing. I don't want to say that they're not believing and it's not serious. I think that they're not taking it serious, and even though the numbers show that this not as, I want to say, deadly, it's still contagious. It's not as deadly as we thought it was. That doesn't mean that you just abandon all principles and say, screw it, I'm not even going to do anything, just to hell with everybody. We still got to be mindful. We still got to be human beings. We still got to be, protective of our elderly. We know who it affects now. We know exactly who it affects. It doesn't affect young people unless you have underlying health conditions. It affects all kinds of people with underlying health conditions, and affects the elderly. So for God's sake, just do the right thing. Protect yourself and protect them. Put a mask on. Do something when you know you're around people like this. Or if you're out in public, you go into the store or something like that. If they're asking you to wear a mask, it's their store. They're allowed to ask you to wear a mask. And if you don't want to wear a mask, then don't go into the store. Find another store, whatever. But it's not really that difficult to put a mask on people. It's not that hard. I get it. There's a principle involved. I understand that. But, you know, just be mindful of other people, because as much as this might not be what the media has blown it out to be, it still exists. It's still there. My daughter just had a scare, and her roommate had to go home because she got tested positive and stuff. Now, was it a false positive? I don't know, and I don't want to sit there and try to, figure that out, okay? She got tested positive. Thankfully, my daughter, who does deal with asthma, got tested negative. She did stay up at school. She actually had 2 scares. She had 2 friends that tested positive up there in Penn State, because that's right now a hotbed. I don't want to get down into the weeds of whether they're really infected or not infected. You know what? It's not a big deal to just protect yourself and try to protect other people.
A few days can make a world. Well, look what's going on at the White House now.
Right, exactly.
It's just spreading like crazy. And there, you know what? And there could have been just a few steps that could have been taken
to prevent it, right?
To prevent a lot. I have a friend we do need to have him come in at some point and talk with us, who's retired from the Secret Service. He might even be watching us. I know he's on our page, right. But he told me even a while back, there were so many Secret Servicemen that had it and weren't able to do their duty, that he felt bad for them. And there was a bunch of, on quarantine, I don't know what happens if they run out of Secret Service. I don't know if they've had to call him up at some point and go in.
I'll step in. I'll step in. I'm at my age. I've only got a few years left. I'll step in, do my duty, whatever, serve my country. I didn't get to serve in the military, so.
So there's been a lot. There's been a lot of it that's not talked about either.
Right. So listen, I just want to make a plea up, because I know that there's a lot of people on both sides of this argument, and I'm trying to be a pragmatic, reasonable voice about this. I'm trying to say, I believe you. Yes, the data is showing that this is not as bad as it was, but it's still there, and it still exists, and it's still a problem. People, don't just dismiss it, and don't just say, the heck with it. Yes, governors have overstepped their boundaries, including Wolf, including Cuomo, including a lot of other governors have overstepped their constitutional boundaries in telling us what we can and can't do. That doesn't mean that we can't be responsible human beings and still do the right thing. You can't counteract their ignorance and their tyranny with total disregard for other people's health and well-being. Be a responsible human being. Social distance. Mask up when you need to mask up, and just be responsible. That's all we're asking. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. It's really not an inconvenience to your life to do that. So that's just a plea to everybody out there to, like I said, who are on both sides of the aisle, to stop being overbearing. Here's the other thing. Stop shaming people for not wearing masks. I saw the one clip the other day of a lady walking in the park in California, threw a cup of hot coffee in someone's face because they were walking outside and weren't wearing a mask. That's extreme, people, okay? Don't take it to that extreme. You people way over there on the left who are like, are scared to death of this stuff and want to be a Karen to everybody who's not wearing a mask, knock it off, okay? Do your part. Let other people do their part. And I'm pleading to the people who are on I just want to abandon this all because I can't stand the government telling me what to do and I want my freedom and yada, yada, yada. It's not a super inconvenience to put a mask on when you need to put a mask on and social distance and just be mindful of things. That's all I'm asking you to do. And I don't think that's a tough thing to do. The president might not say it. Your governor might not say it. The social media might not say it. But I just said it. So you heard it first here on the Blabber Brain Show, and I think that's something that the Big M and I can both agree on.
Yep.
Just be a human being, for crying out loud. And with that, I know we're running long, but we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in a minute.
Blabber Brains.
And welcome back to the Blabber Brain Show. We hope you maybe got to go to the bathroom, do something. Probably not.
Check the scores.
And it was like 2 seconds for you. It was a little bit of a break for us, so you probably didn't get to do a whole lot. I think I really want to ignore the latest in the news with the debate last week because
Oh God.
I mean, what is there to say that hasn't already been said? So just for those of you out there, we probably could do like a whole show on how ridiculous that was. So let's just bypass that. Although I do want to touch on one thing. It amazes me. And this is not about the debate. This is about politics in general. It amazes me how much people they believe everything about politics, right? They're so ingrained in it, and they're so hypersensitive, one way or the other. And people, it's political theater, okay? Most of the stuff you're seeing is not real. The yapping going on, the calling of names, this guy did this guy did that. It's political theater. That's all it is. It's like watching WWE and getting upset that the wrestlers are really going to hurt somebody and they're calling somebody out. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't watch any WWE. Do you watch WWE?
When I was a teenager, I watched it. Before it turned into Hollywood,
right.
I thought it was pretty entertaining and funny.
Okay, so I'm going to date myself then. Okay, because neither one of us can probably name a current WWE wrestler, right? Other than Casey Catanzaro, maybe. Only because she was on American Ninja Warrior. But let's just date ourselves. I'm going to say this is like Randy Macho Man Savage stepping up and calling out Hulk Hogan and saying, I'm going to rip his head off, and next time I see him, I'm going to kill him, and I'm going to, whatever. And he takes a chair and smashes it over his head, and people get up and, can you believe what he did? Oh my God, call the police. It would be like reacting to that in the same way that people are reacting to politics. People, 90% of everything you're seeing on the news, hearing from politicians, seeing on social media, it's political theater. It's done to guide you in one direction or another and have you choose sides and have you hate more than anything. Did you ever notice that? There's nothing that's out there that causes you to love somebody more. It only causes you to hate somebody more.
I don't know.
Design.
There's some that seem to eat it up, and it doesn't matter once they bunker down with somebody. it doesn't matter what they do. It's
I'm just here to say, look, people, don't believe all that you see and hear, especially from schmucks that from Congress that stand up to the microphone and start wagging their finger and calling the president this, or calling the senator this, or calling a congressman this, or congresswoman whatever. Just don't believe it, okay? It's political theater. Why they think it still works? Well, put it this way: they do it because it does still work. Why you people allow it to work is the question. That's just mind-boggling. I did hear an interview today, though, with Adam Carolla, of all people. Adam, believe it or not, is actually even though he's a funny comedian, he's
good though. He's good.
He's very sensible, man. He's very pragmatic in his thought process and stuff. He actually said something that kind of opened my mind. I'm like, wow, I didn't even think about it that way. What he said was that picture, like if someone says something, let's say negative about Trump, and then somebody backs that up with, oh yeah, well, and then they share something on social media that's a clip of, let's say, Trump on Hannity or, whatever, Tucker Carlson or something like that. And what happens immediately is the left automatically dismisses it and says, yeah, well, that's just Fox. I don't believe Fox. But he said that the problem is the people that watch Fox know that they're watching Fox. The people who are watching CNN and MSNBC think they're watching the news. And all they're doing is watching the liberal version of Fox. But they don't think that way. He says, see, it's even like if you walk into an airport and there's a bar with a TV on in the back, and let's say they had Fox News on in the background, and someone walks in and says, hey, what do you got on the TV? What would they say? We got a Fox. Okay? If they had CNN on, they'd probably say, what do you got on TV? The news. And it's just the way, I think that's slowly changing, and that's what he said. He goes, he thinks that people are becoming wise to that. But basically, the reason that, and this goes back to what we were talking about with the social dilemma and the divide and everything. And I understand it more. I understand the divide more from the situation that of where people think the other side is brainwashed or is ridiculous, and how can you believe this kind of stuff? Because on the liberal side of things, you have CNN, you have MSNBC, but you also have social media, you also have CBS, ABC, NBC. You have they're all skewed to the left. You have the New York Times, the Washington Post. On the right side, you got Fox, but then you might have like Breitbart or Blaze or whatever, or Newsmax or whatever. So when the left sees that 30 different news outlets has all the same story, because it's all geared towards one direction, they naturally think that that's news, that they don't look at it as skewed news. Whereas I think people on the right, some think that what they're getting is news, but I think a lot of people realize that we're watching conservative news because it's alternative. It's not the mainstream news. That's what they even call it, alternative or not mainstream news, whatever, alternative media. People on the right automatically think that the people on the left are brainwashed because that they're just blindly listening to everything that's being parroted throughout all their media sources out there, right? And it becomes fake news because it's agenda driven. And no, things on the right aren't agenda driven. Things on the right are agenda driven, people, okay? I hate to tell you. But the people on the left think that they're really seeing the news because of all of the news sources that they get their information from, which means they think that everybody on the right is brainwashed into thinking that they just watch all this, Fox News and all this other right stuff is just propaganda for the right, and you're not believing reality. And hence that's why we have the split. Because why? Because real journalism is dead. Can anybody, including you, Mark, can you name one network or news outlet that is honest, down the middle, and just tries to get to the truth of things without a bias one way or the other?
Yeah, I don't know if that exists or not. Look, I don't watch much of Fox News. I don't watch, definitely don't watch any CNN. MSNBC, I watch occasionally, and it's not because of the news. That you just go through, and there's an interesting medical story or something like that, or some breakthrough that interests me, and I'll or some financial thing that's interesting. It really isn't them reporting the news, and I'll stop. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think sometimes the local news is sort of that way, but at times they're definitely not.
Even the local news is skewed. I
mean, there's only two things that I watch on a regular basis, and I watch, and I'm sure you won't like this program, and probably anybody on the right will have a fit. But I like watching on ABC Sunday morning at 10 o'clock this week, and the reason I like it is because they bring in on their panel as the show goes on. They have a couple concerned, like Chris Christie's on there, and that Rahm Emanuel or whatever his name is. And even though I'm not, and they'll have a couple other people that they'll bring in and talk. But the thing is, when those two guys, and I'm not a Rahm Emanuel or however you pronounce his name fan, but being that him and Chris Christie aren't really in office right now, you know, they don't have a real political position, you know, that they could argue with each other and disagree without beating each other up, and actually come across fairly reasonable. And and those two guys are good at going back and forth. And sometimes they'll actually not agree with what their party is doing, you know, or saying, or they believe, you know, or even Chris Christie, who obviously he spent time around the president. He contracted COVID.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't always agree with them, but those two guys could get into a discussion without yelling at each other, without making fun of each other, without interrupting each other. And I do like that show. I don't always have to agree with everything, but I do like that show. And I do also watch, a lot of times, for some reason, at 6:30 at night, I'll watch the NBC News with Lester Holt, because he's got the best forehead in the business. And that's what I like about his forehead. But yeah, and the other reason I watch, I don't think I have never heard him cut up the first lady or anything like that, like some of the other networks have done. He just kind of reports the news, and I just get into him because he's a good jazz bass player. Right. He's a musician, and I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty good.
So is Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, and Huckabee, you know, there's stuff I like about him. There's things I don't like about him either.
I'm the same with that. He rose me the wrong way in areas too. So
yeah, but that's about all I really pay attention to, is that 1 hour on Sunday. And I mean, it gets interesting, but it's funny when I hear either left or right, whether it was Obama as president or even as Trump as president, when Trump will say something, and everybody on Fox News believes it, but there's actual proof I'm seeing on another network that he lied, right. And that's not, or guys, was on the call. Right. That's not what he said. You know, and it goes both ways, and it just blows me away when there's people that go like this and go, it's my guy, it's my person's, you know, I shouldn't say guy, because there's a lot of women in politics too, but it's like this, it's my guy or nothing. And it just kills me. What I don't like about people when it comes to politics is when they're okay with somebody. It's like this whole thing. It would be like me being married and having my wife, and I wouldn't do this because I don't even cheat on people that I've been in relationships with. So it'd be like me being in a let's just say I'm in a serious relationship with somebody. She catches me sleeping with a woman. Here's the politician's take on it. She'll go, honey, what are you doing with that woman? I would respond as a politician, hey, your ex-husband cheated on you all the time. You know, it's always like that. He did it 20 times. This is just my one time. Right. It's always that sort of, and that's how people who are really, and that's what I don't like about certain people when it comes to politics. I don't care if you're to the left. I don't care if you're to the right. Or like me, I was a conservative. I'm an independent because I saw Republican public interest group I worked for throwing away Democrat voter registrations in the trash and got busted by it. And yes, it was reported on Fox back then too. Yeah, and after the election,
it happens on both sides. Yep.
Yeah, I switched over to independent. Now I probably lean more to the right than I do to left, but I don't care if you're a conservative. I don't care if you're a liberal or if you're independent. What I don't like about a lot of the people who are to the left or to the right is when they make excuses for the same damn thing that the other side is doing.
Right.
That's right. That's the problem I have. When you're okay with ripping somebody off, long as they're with your party, and then you hey, well, if they don't like, somebody doesn't like what Trump did. Oh, Obama did that 3 times. Right. Okay, so you're okay with being ripped off. It's like this. If I had 2 women to date, one woman I know that I used to date cheated on me 20 times. The other woman over here cheated on me once. I don't go, oh, I trust this girl more than I trust her. I say, you know what? I don't fucking trust either one of them and stay the hell away from them. Right. That's the mentality that I don't get. And when people act and talk that way, I don't trust them. I don't trust. I could be your friend, but I don't trust you because I know you. Because if you're that way with total strangers, when you have nothing in there to win or lose. Yep. What are you going to be like in your private life? And I just don't trust people generally who have that view. At least say, you know what? Yeah, I don't like what my guy is doing. Yeah, your guy did that. But at least I like the fact that still this is benefiting so and so. I'm not saying my candidate is right because they fucked up. They're wrong, but the overall picture, I still agree with this side more than I do that. That I understand, but I just don't trust people who do what I just is telling you. I just don't.
I've been very vocal about why I left the Republican Party and became an independent, and it's was mainly because of the fact that I got tired of being shoveled BS by politicians who they know how to sound like a conservative when they're running, but then they get into office and they don't govern like that. They don't govern the way that they spoke on the campaign trail. They don't live their lives that way. Tim Murphy was another good example. I didn't like Tim Murphy to begin with, and I was forced to kind of hang out with him because of the friends that I had in politics.
I met him before too when I worked for the medical device guy. He hung out with him, and I can't remember who the other guy was.
Well, I mean, I have friends who were friends with him, and I was helping to run my former boss's, Mike McCormick's campaign at one point in time. I was the creative director of his campaign, and of course, he was good friends with Tim. And I just did not, I never got a good feeling from him then. When he came to Diana Irie Vaughan's events, Diana didn't, sorry, Diana, if I'm throwing you under the bus, I think it's a little too late for that. Tim's out of office now, but Diana didn't like him, said that guy's not a conservative and he doesn't live his life as a conservative. She knew something that I didn't know, but I was like, you know what, Diana, you know something that I don't know, but I get the same feeling. I don't like that guy. But boy, when he's in front of the camera and he's up in front of the microphone, he knows exactly what to say to get that vote. He knows exactly what to say to get the conservative vote. And I got tired of people being that way. I got tired of people campaigning as conservatives but governing as I don't want to even say liberal, but they're anything but conservative. So I'm like, why be a member of a party that doesn't it doesn't reflect on my values. The party may reflect on my values, but the people in the party don't. So I'm like, I just want to get away from that. The other thing that I thought that was very beneficial of leaving the party is, I left in 2015, 2014, something like that. I registered back to an independent. I've seen the world a lot clearer, not being guided by a party, but by looking at issues and saying pragmatic. I've used that word a lot, but I mean it. I look at things pragmatically. I don't get skewed one way or the other based on what a party is saying. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people that way. I mean, on both sides, they whatever the party says, they just willfully believe. You might have even seen a conversation I had on Facebook recently, and I actually had to really do a timeout on it because things started getting a little hot and heavy. But I started talking about how it was sick that people were wishing Trump ill will or even death because he had COVID. But then the other freaky, weird thing I started seeing was I started seeing people comment, and thankfully they weren't any of my friends, but I was seeing it, of commenting on, I wish this was Biden and not Trump, and because I just want that guy to die, and I'm like, look, this is sick, people. You can't be wishing death upon people just because they're of the wrong political party than you, or because you disagree with them, and even in that thread, people were responding. I don't want to say in a hateful way, but almost justifying it. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? It's just like what you said. It's like they were saying, well, look, Trump is still running these campaign ads. Well, look at Biden still doing this, and it's back and forth. I'm like, and I had to just call a timeout. I'm like, people, just stop. Okay, hate is hate. What kind of world are we in when we're trying to justify hate, or say, or try to have a competition of who's less hateful or who's more hateful? That's just stupid. It's ridiculous. And it really, I don't know. I hate to feel all sappy and sound stupid, not like a man, but I'm all about love and unity. You know what I mean? I just want people to get along, and I want peace. And that's not politics, man. That's not politics at all.
No,
but I try to bring some civility to it. And even when I try to bring some civility to it, there's always someone there to scoop in.
It doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't work, man. It doesn't. And it's a shame, because you know what? That's why it'll never happen in our lifetime. But I really wish that we could do away with our political party system. You would lose the corruption in Washington. You would lose the 30-year lifetime politician, because they wouldn't keep getting reelected time and time and time again. How many people like Pelosi or Schumer or McConnell, or these people that have been in office forever, do people just go in and just blindly do all Republican or all Democrat? And that's why they get in, because as much as it seems like people pay attention to politics because of social media, the bulk of people are not hardcore followers of politics. Maybe a month or two before an election, and which is why maybe the negative ads could work on people that don't really follow things that much. I hate negative political ads because I think they're stupid. I don't think they're changing anybody's mind. And if they are changing anybody's mind, it's such a small percentage that it's not going to matter.
They keep spending the money, so people keep giving.
That doesn't mean it's working, though. It doesn't mean it's working.
I think it might get some people riled up if it's what they want to hear, but I don't know. I mean, people's views of everything are so screwed up. It's just even like after the presidential debate, the one last week. Now, I do think this probably won't be out until after it. This 2 days from now, I think the vice presidential debate will be
more civil.
Yeah, they're not going to be calling each other names. They're just going to. I think it will be.
Well, that's not to say that they're not going to get mean with each other. I think they will, but they'll be mean with a civil tone to it.
No, I think there will be more talk of the issues, and
right.
There's going to be some tension there, but it's going to be a lot better. But I guess what gets me, especially with the last debate, is when I see people the next day on social media going, my man slammed him, or he won, he was a warrior and the other one was a wimp, or this guy's a bully, and they act like it was a big win.
Right.
To me, if I'm looking at a debate as a normal person who's not taking sides, I look at a debate and say, okay, there's some undecided voters out there. What candidate did a good job of attracting people outside of their base? And that would be for both candidates 0.0. So that's how you look at it. Just because you think your guy made the best cracks and all that he was some warrior or the greatest debater of all time, it doesn't mean a damn thing when everybody who's undecided independents go, there's two jackasses up on stage, and one of them's actually the one running the country, acting like a 5-year-old. You got another guy who wants that job that's now jumped on board and is playing along too. Neither one of those candidates did anything but excite their base. The same people who are going to vote for them, whether they dropped their pants and took a dump on the stage.
Well, I have a slightly different take, but go ahead, finish up.
But I don't think either candidate did a damn thing for undecided voters. I just don't. I think it was a joke.
I think it was intentional from Trump, because I think going into it,
I'm sure it was.
Trump is a very calculating guy. Okay, everything he does is calculated. I don't think he does a lot of things that are just off the cuff, even though it seems like it, right? He doesn't get to where he's at by doing things off the cuff. Everything is calculated. I think his plan was going into that knowing that no matter what he does, no matter how vile and bombastic he comes across, he's not going to lose his base. Okay. Right. And even knowing if Joe retaliates in kind, Joe's not going to lose his base. Right. I think Trump's job, now this is just my thinking on this. I think that he was trying to tear a division between the far left and Joe, which is why he started digging in to things to get Joe to admit that he doesn't side with the very far left on things, and why Trump even admitted it twice in that debate. He said, "Well, you just lost the far left." Now, to some people, to Biden supporters might say, "Well, so what? So we don't want the far left." But they do. They're counting on the far left. They're counting on the Bernie supporters and the Kamala supporters, right? That's why he has Kamala on the team, because they want the far left. I think he was trying to drive a wedge, no matter at what cost. Even if he came across looking like the biggest jackass in the world, he wanted Biden to admit some certain things that were not going to sit well with the far left. Now, here's where Trump, I think, got that wrong. It's very easy for Joe or even Bernie to go back to those supporters and say, "People, this is political theater, right? He's saying those things because he has to. He's still on your side. He's still got you. Don't worry about it. Whatever you hear in these debates, whatever you hear going on, just ignore it. It's political theater. He's still got you." That's easily done. So I think that's a miscalculation on Trump's part, if that was his plan, if that was his calculated plan.
They're still going to vote for him. Who else are they going to vote for? The far left is not going to vote for...
No, a lot of Bernie supporters don't even want to vote for either. They want to stay home.
I know a lot of people who aren't crazy on either candidate that are going to still go and vote for their party. I don't know. It didn't. There just, to me, was not really anything accomplished. Wednesday night, I think you'll have a real discussion on issues. I mean, Pence isn't going to come out and start making fun of somebody right off the bat. Pence is not that guy.
Let's do a review here real quick, okay? Because I think that I nailed this debate the earlier in the morning of the debate. If you saw my post, I just want to see how close I was. This is what I said about the debate. So, and again, this is probably going to air after the vice presidential debate, but it's not too hard to call with what's going to go on there, right? I said, spoiler alert. At tonight's debate, it will be a combination of WWE, a comedy show, and a cringe fest. And in the end, both sides will claim a victory and nobody's mind will be changed. How close was I on that? Now, again, was that hard to predict? Probably not. And I said, I had one more prognostication. I said, if Biden, and this is yet to be determined, and I don't know that he had... I mean, they both had horrible debates. I said, if Biden has a horrible night, he will withdraw from the other debates, citing that he couldn't stand to be on the stage with a pathological liar or something to that degree. It looks like the second debate is going to happen, so that's the one thing I got wrong. So, anyways, my main prediction came true. I don't think it was very hard to predict that, though.
Yeah, and all you people out there who say, you know what? And I actually posted this right after the debate, if you're on my personal page, not my musician page. And, well, my real last name is Bezeski for some of you out there, but music-wise, I've always used Anthony's my middle name.
This is a scandal. This is a scandal.
There's a lot of people that don't know my last name's Bezeski unless
I've known you for how long? I'm just now finding this out. What?
Well, anyhow, I've been kidding around. I think my words, I can't remember exactly word for word, but I said basically after the first debate, if you feel like you're the crackety ass between the left and right cheek, vote for me. Let me be your ass crack. cut out the middleman and vote for Pizeski.
I'm still waiting for you to announce me as your running mate, and that hasn't happened yet.
If you win, I don't think anybody wanted anything to do with it. I got a lot of people. Oh, if you win, yeah, sure, I'll come aboard.
Well,
and I haven't been as vocal about it because there's one person in particular. I don't want her to think I was a complete jackass right off the start. But it doesn't matter anyhow.
On the other point, I really don't care if people think I'm a jackass. So
I mean, so
if you don't want me to be your running mate, I won't be your running mate. But if you were to ask me, I will not turn you down. Why
would you even want to play a part? Hey, you're welcome. I'd love to be working with you in the White House. Absolutely. And we have a difference of opinion on some things.
That balances it out.
That's how it should be, to have somebody come in and just say, okay,
it's the perfect
I'm just going to follow what you do. I mean, to me, I like that. I still don't understand why nobody's ever gone to Condoleezza Rice and brought her in as a VP pick.
I thought she'd be a great pick. Yeah.
I thought she would be fantastic.
Now, if you'd rather have Condoleezza over me, I would gladly step down for Condoleezza because
she hasn't returned any of my calls. They should have her at least run the NFL. I mean, she'd be great at that.
That's a no-brainer. She wants to do it too, and Goodell is just horrible.
Yeah, I mean, she would be the right person for it because she's African American. She understands what the players' feelings are and what they and she doesn't. And I've watched interviews with her. She doesn't denounce anything that they say, and she agrees with it. She just would take a better approach at dealing with the issue, and to me that would be a good woman to have running the NFL. Somebody who is, I mean, it's majority minority league.
Right.
Why not have a minority that also has a touch of a conservative view? Also, too, I just think she's.
She would be more pragmatic too. I don't think she would play politics with the sport, and that's what Goodell is. That's what Goodell is doing. He's playing politics with the sport.
Yeah, I think she would do what is best for not just the teams, the league, but also the players. I think she would be somebody who could get everybody to work together. And I just think I'm just surprised that she hasn't over the years hasn't gotten that call. Or maybe she just has no interest in it, and that's why nobody's ever called. I'm not talking just about the NFL. I know the story on that. But I mean, as far as getting into being a vice president or I mean, I've never heard her say anything she wanted to be president of the United States. So that's the only reason I haven't brought that up. I just think she'd be a fantastic vice president for anybody.
I will say this about the NFL, and hopefully we eventually get my buddy John Elefante on the show. He and I love to rip each other back and forth. And, the Steelers were supposed to play the Titans this weekend, and he hates the Steelers, and Titans are his boys. And I think I touched a nerve because usually he responds, and he didn't respond this time. But I said, you know what? I said, I think what happened was, I said, your Tennessee Titan boys were using this whole COVID thing as a ruse to not want to drop their losing streak to the Steelers. So that was pretty well played on their end. So
I think it would be. So. I thought it was going to be a great game. One thing I would mention to you, just I've been meaning to tell you this is, look, we haven't even gotten into the winter. We're early in the season, and we already have a game tonight that was supposed to take place yesterday with their starting quarterback not being in. I don't even know what's going on with the game. It's probably over now. But with this Steeler game, I wouldn't be surprised if the Super Bowl ends up being a couple weeks late. That there's going to be a time where there are going to be teams that might lose out on a couple games, and they're going to have to try to make some of that stuff up. Where there could be a playoff game or a championship game once you get into the winter, and they might have to reschedule a game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Super Bowl isn't played maybe a week or two later.
Well, that plays in our favor if we're driving to Florida. So because we can always change that easier than we can change a flight. So
April 4th, baby, or I don't know if that's a Sunday or not, but early April would be great. And then in February and March, they could do all the college bowl games because some of the seasons are starting. I mean, the Pac-10 is doing a short season starting in November 9th, I think it is. Oh, right. I would love to see football, college and pro, extend through the winter because there's nothing for me to do in February and March on Sunday. It's off.
We'll see how it all plays out. But I think we better wrap things up here.
Okay.
Look, it's great when we have a special guest, but it's always great when you and I just to get to blabber for a full show, and that'll happen from time to time. We hope that you hung in there long enough and enjoyed what you heard. And I think we'll probably try to get a guest on next time, whether it be Chip or John or somewhere. We'll find a special guest to bring on for next show. So until then. See you later there, Blabber Brain.
Take it easy.
Fans. See you.
I did it wrong. This hat's throwing me off. I can't get my hand underneath the brim.
Fail. All right.
See ya.
We'll see you later, Brainiacs.